Hello everyone, welcome to the 101% podcast where we talk about mindset, motivation, discipline, how to always push yourself, how to become a beast and how to defeat struggle. This podcast will help you to get a better life, that's 101% for sure. I'm your host Joakim and together with me is the co-host and my sister Annika. Welcome to this podcast. Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling unheard, misunderstood or just plain awkward? The way we communicate shapes your relationship, career, and confidence. But what if I told you that just a few small changes could make you a more persuasive, charismatic, and effective communicator? In this episode, we'll break down the secret of great communicators so you can start having conversation that truly connect. Let's dive in.
Hey, Joakim, how are you?
Good.
Nice. How is life?
Good.
Good. That is good. How about training? Are things okay at training?
Yep.
Well, this is awkward. What if I try something else? Hey, Joakim, can't you tell me about what is good in your life right now?
Yeah, life is actually good now. This week I have trained 3 or 4 days home, and our podcast business going better and better. We have built up our infrastructure, and things go better and better. Yeah, we just have our guest. So life is great. Yeah.
So, maybe everyone noticed here, but there are two things that I changed. First of all, I changed the atmosphere, the enthusiasm. In the beginning, I was a bit off. I was just, I don't know, maybe tired or something. And when I'm off, how can I expect Joachim to be so on and enthusiastic? And the other thing I changed is I changed from closed questions to an open questions. When I ask Joachim, can you tell me more about what is good in your life right now? Then we're past that thing that things are good, but what is good? Can you tell me more about that? And that's how this good conversation started.
That's a smart way. Yeah. You, on a way, yeah, you did force me to tell more, and then it became more easy to open myself, and the conversation flow better. So that was a great way to do it.
Good. And both because of the question, but also because of the atmosphere. It is very hard to give from myself when people are like this, very closed in their body language in a way. So it is a lot about what you get is what you give.
Absolutely. Communication is the process of exchanging information, ideas, thoughts, and emotions. Communication skills are extremely important. Communication can spread knowledge, share ideas, solve problems, build relationship, discover stories, learn to know other people, and discover more important things about yourself. Communication is the foundation of everything. Yes, everything.
If you don't communicate properly, you create a lot of issues. How are you supposed to express yourself in a good way if you communicate poorly? How are you supposed to get to know people or to know yourself? It is the foundation of everything.
Communicate your values, what you expect, and what you tolerate. You have to communicate with people. You have no choice. And the clearer you are on what you accept, it will be more easy for you and others because the people know where you stand.
Definitely. And I think that bad communication is the root of so many disagreements and issues. So if there is a problem or an argument, very often it can be solved by good communication.
That's the key in life, good communication. That's why this episode is so important, because we have a lot of tricks to learn you here. We will divide communication into 4 different types: verbal, oral and written, non-verbal, that's the body language, facial expression, eye contact and tone of voice, visual, graphics and charts, digital communication, social media, text message, video call, etc.
To communicate in an effective way, you should focus on these 4 aspects. Clarity, being straightforward and easy to understand. Adapt your audience by tailoring your communication style to who you're talking to.
Active listening, truly engaging with what the other person is saying. Ask questions and be present.
And empathy is very important here, to try to understand things from the other person's perspective.
Tone of voice, the way you say something matters just as much as what you say.
Mm-hmm. And also, it is very important to give and receive feedback. To communicate in an effective way, you should focus on these 6 aspects. Number 1, clarity, being straightforward and easy to understand. Adapt your audience by tailoring your communication style to who you're talking to.
Active listening, truly engage with what the other person is saying. Ask questions and be present.
And empathy is a huge foundation in communication. You have to try to understand things from the other person's perspective.
And the tone of voice, the way you say something matters just as much as what you say.
Another important factor is feedback. Giving and receiving feedback is vital in making sure the message was understood as intended.
Non-verbal communication, your body language. This aspect is so important. We released an entire episode about this the 7th of February.
As you see, who you are and how your character is helps a lot for communicating in a good way. Being interested, genuine, empathic, and enthusiastic is, of course, personality traits that will make you communicate in a better way. But these things can also be trained and improved.
Some important factors to focus about is to use a strong and confident voice, be formal when you are in formal settings, avoid misunderstanding by avoiding mumbling or too many words.
And to improve your communication skills, you can practice asking questions to create good conversations, or follow-up questions to go deeper into things. Like we saw in the intro, it plays a huge difference if I say, "How are you?" than if I say, "Joakim," with a lot of enthusiasm, "Tell me more about this and this." It switched the whole conversation up.
You can also be more aware of the atmosphere you created around you. We all know that you don't open up so much to people that make you feel bad. Be aware of this and work on improving yourself. Remember, you are the tool you always bring around. Never stop working on yourself.
Those are words of wisdom, and it's true for all aspects in your life that you desire to make better. And also, if you are going to have an important conversation or a lecture, prepare as much as you can. Being over-prepared is never wrong.
Be aware of your non-verbal communication, your tone, and your overall appearance.
And another pro tip is to build your emotional intelligence. How well you read others affects how you will communicate with them. We often talk about mentalizing, and that is the ability to interpret others' behavior and how your behavior affects them. So if I'm telling something to Joakim, I need to be aware of, okay, I did seem a bit angry because I was yelling, so maybe that's why Joakim raised his voice, because maybe he's intimidated or disappointed or worried. So it's the ability to see myself from Joakim's eyes, as well as to see Joakim, how he's acting.
And 2 great communicators that come to my mind now is, of course, the one and only Andrew Tate, and another great one, Dana White, the president of the UFC, the biggest MMA organization in the world. Those two are great communicators. For example, Andrew Tate, I think one of the best communicator out in the world there. So very quick in his head, quick to answer, always know what he's gonna say, and him it's great to handle stress and him answer in a logical way, and him always know when to be funny, when to be sarcastic, when to use irony, when to be serious, and what to say what. And the way him speak, he's very certain. He's so sure about everything. It's not a fraction of doubt in his mind.
Mm-hmm.
So he is a great one. And Dana White, the president of the USA, is very good communicator also. So much stress, so many journalists, so many things happen. Yeah, you have one of the best fighter in the world gonna fight the next day, and the same night or the same day also. He got a phone. Okay, him is off. He hurt. Then he have to do something, and he have to lot of pressure. Yeah, and journalists go on him all the time, and with him staying calm and him answer in a very logical way. And sometimes, yeah, I see him get angry, and I understand that. But him, even if him get angry, him stay calm, and him is so great to answer, to deliver the message. And I see him have some speeches before to speak for Donald Trump and other, and he is a great. His message, yeah, hit you right in the heart. Mm-hmm. So that's two great communicators I look up to and study a lot.
Mm-hmm. Those are really great ones, and it seems like they have good control of their own ego, their own mentality, and then they are also very good communicators, because it is a lot about how you are, how you feel about yourself, how well are you able to communicate with others. And one thing that is very important is to know your place in other people's life, or when you communicate with other people. And this is something we learn a lot in my education, that if someone comes to you with a problem, there are different types of solutions in a way, or alternative ways of communicating. One of them is, are you going to help them solve it? Or are you going to tell them that this was very dumb and lecture them? Or are you going to reflect together with them and find alternative solutions? And this goes for us in the line of duty, but it also goes for everyone out there. If Joakim comes to me with a problem, very rarely does he need me to lecture him. If he calls me and say, I did something stupid, I did this and this and this, he already told me it was stupid. There is no need of me to reminding him of that, because that's not what he needs. That's not why he calls me. He calls me and say, I did something stupid. This and this happened. Then I can ask, okay, then you need to get out of this, right? Let's look at some alternatives. And then we can spar together, because it's not like I have all the answers. Joakim is very smart and he knows best in his life. So it's better to be a good partner in communicating than to take up the whole place and be the main person in it, because very often you're not. And in this situation, I'm not. Joakim is the main person. He's the one that needs to get out of this. So play the football back to him in a way. Play it back. Make him feel good and smart and solve it himself, but be a good partner. Guide him through that.
Absolutely. Being a good conversation partner is also a lot about being a good listener. What do they need from you?
Mm-hmm. And this is also something we talk a lot about in my education. And now I'm going to teach you the main traits from two different conversation techniques that we use. One of them is the motivational interview, MI. And that is a structure to elicit motivation from the individual, because the individual have some sort of motivation, big or small or troubled, but it is that motivation that we need to make bigger and to work with. So I'm not going to hold a seminar and lecture them about this and this, but to be genuinely interested in their point of view. And this includes expressing empathy and rolling with resistance, which means that we need to understand that it is a process. We need to avoid argumentation. And here as well, it is very good to use open-ended questions, like I did in the beginning of the episode, because that is what works. We also show affirmation and a lot of reflections, and we summarize so that we check that we have understood what has been said. And it also gives the patient or the people that we're working with a good time to reflect when you summarize things for them. And we focus a lot about the ambivalence, which when I was talking about it, we roll with the resistance. Resistance comes naturally when people are going to change, because it is difficult to change. We often have mixed feelings about it. We want to stop, but it's difficult because it's also beneficial in some ways, or this and this. So we need to have the understanding of that things are not easy. And here again, the empathy plays a huge role. And the other one I wanted to tell you about is called appreciative inquiry. And the idea behind this is that the patient knows best. You are the expert in your own life. And that is a nice way of putting it, because that is empowerment. That is empowering that person to find their way out of it in a way. We don't need to know the problem to solve it, but we need to help the patient or the person that we're working through with to find their tools and to work their way out of it. So we focus a lot about the desired changes, and we are there to help them, mostly by empowering them, supporting them, guiding them, and then they have to be put responsible as well to solve these kind of problems.
There are also some common factors that can make the communication harder. We will take a look at some of those.
One example is physical barriers like distance or noise or technical issues in digital communication.
Other is emotional barriers that can be stress, anger, or anxiety that affects how the message is delivered or received.
And then there are cultural barriers. That can be differences in language or values and norms that can cause misunderstandings. It is important to be aware of cultural sensitivity and adapt your message accordingly.
We also have language barrier, using technical terms or complex vocabulary that others may not understand.
And lastly, perceptual barriers. The differences in perception or misinterpretations based on personal biases or assumptions.
The perks of communication are endless. It is a necessity to be a good communicator. It will take you far business-wise in relationship, through all the challenge of life, and in everything you do.
And I've thought a lot about lately that what Joakim said in the end of the charisma episode, that oftentimes people forget what you say, but they will never forget how they made you feel. And this is a great ability of a good communicator, to make the people you talk to feel good. And the characteristics you have is very often shown through your ability to be a good communicator. And there is one thing I want us to reflect about, because I saw a quote the other day, Joakim, that said, "A man who does not stand for something is a man who falls for anything." And what do you think about this statement?
I think it's very important. You have to know yourself, and you have to know what you stand for and what you believe. You have to ask yourself what you believe and think about many different things and topic. And then you have your own values and rules, and what is acceptable for you and not. And you have to communicate those to the people around you, so people know where you stand. So I think it's very important to stand for something, and many things also.
Definitely, I think you're right. And we just finished our interview with Elmin Sivcic, which was my kickboxing coach. And that episode was legendary. Well, he is such a fascinating character that we have a lot to learn from. And I recommend everybody to go in and listen to that episode, because it was extremely well. And he talked a lot about this, his principles in life, why it is important to stand up for the things that you know is right. And I have reflected a lot upon this lately. I think that you will be more happy, because it is a high level of freedom when you're not afraid of what everyone else will think, or you don't obey what people mean that you should do, and you are yourself, you stand up for yourself. And I think that with that comes freedom and happiness and the respect you have for yourself, but also you gain a lot of respect of the people around you. And then there was another quote I wrote that I want us to reflect a little bit about, and that goes like this: there are two sides of the story, and then there is the truth. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's a great one. Side of the story, yeah, then is the truth. That's right, because yeah, it's always three versions: the one person and another one and the right one. So it's important. Yeah, you have to look at things on from different side, and maybe for yourself also. Yeah, I think you cannot just say, "Oh, I am always right." You have to look at from others' perspective as well. It is a reason God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. If you listen more, people will feel better when talking with you. And if you actually listen to the person who speaks to you, the conversation will be much better for both of you.
Definitely. As you said, communication is also a lot about the ability to be a good listener. And when we're talking about the quote, there are two sides of the story, then there is the truth. I think it's a lot about ego too. If you're extremely stubborn and you're close-minded, then you will just decide that I'm right, that person is wrong. And if you don't have the ability to see that maybe there's some truth to what he says, and maybe the truth is not only mine, what I'm saying, then you have a good relationship with your own ego. And this humbling characteristic is going to solve a lot of problems, because being close-minded is not good. Then you're not even open to understanding the truth.
Your communication can either open doors or close them. You can build bridges through your communication or burn them. Your communication tone is contagious. Reflect upon that for a minute. And always make sure to be aware of how you come across.
And in my line of duty, we're very often working with situations that can be filled with conflict. And I've written exams about this because I find it so important, the way that we communicate in these situations. The research that we're basing our models on is teaching us that there are red communication and there is green communication. And red is like the traffic light. It is very strict, and that can be like, if I raise my voice, the person I work with is going to be more stressed and maybe raise their voice. And the whole idea here is that when you're working in a situation where it is building up to violence or something very seriously can happen, you have to have this green communication where you kind of lower your voice. Your body language is not threatening, because then, of course, the person we work with is going to get more energized and maybe lose control. Again, we're back to what I've been repeating myself with now, but it is a lot about how you come across, your character, your personality, the way you are able to communicate. And this is from my work, but also in life. When you walk into a room and you're snappy or closed, of course, when you're not creating a good vibe around you, what do you expect in return? And I think that many people are not really self-aware enough to reflect upon these things. But as we know, communication is so important. And I want to ask you, Joakim, when you moved to Thailand, most people there speak English. But why did you choose to learn Thai? Why was that important for you?
Yeah, it was many reasons. Yeah, they in the tourist places. Yeah, they speak English, but many places on the village and outside the big town or something, they are not speak so good English, and many places they don't speak. Yeah, but I would like to be understand what the Thai people say. I would like to be independent, because everywhere where I go, I want to can do for myself. Yeah, I don't need help for someone to understand what they say or like this. So that's been great. Yeah, and I go many places around in Thailand on the village where people didn't speak any English, and to sit talk with them. Yeah, it's so funny and interesting. It's been much more funny for they and much more funny for myself. So communication is a big key to get much more fun in your life. That's the most funniest thing I think about Thailand now when I go to Thailand is to speak Thai with the Thai people. You also get a much more lot of respect because you actually take your time to learn the language, and it's amazing. But the reason was I want to understand what they say, and I want to can go everywhere and not need to be dependent on someone. Just fix everything for myself.
That is awesome. I heard one time a quote that said that when a person dies, a library goes up to flames. So not only a book, but a library. Think about all the stories and all the knowledge one single person has. And when you learn their language in the land that you're going to live in for many years, you get so much more genuine meetings with people. And as you say, a lot of troubles can happen when you're in a country. So it's good to be able to communicate with those kind of organizations or hospitals or wherever you maybe had to go.
Absolutely. I like this one with it's all about the library. Yeah, that was a good one. I haven't heard that before. And I also hear rumors on the street that you have started to learn Arabic. Is that right?
That is right. And it is because my husband speaks Arabic fluently. That is the language they speak at home because they're all from Palestine. And to me, I meet so many people now in his network, in a way, friends of the family, that I would love to communicate with better. I was at the dinner the other day and they were telling about the time that they were refugees from Syria. They had to be refugees from Palestine. Of course, we know when the occupation started, they were in Syria for a while, and then when everything broke out there, they had to take the chance and come over to Europe. And it was a situation so scary and filled with fear when they took the boat. I think it was from Turkey and over to Greece. And the man was telling a lot of stories, and I just wish I could understand and ask him follow-up questions. And they told me stories about the war, family members that has been tortured and killed in Syria, by the regime. And there's so many things I would like to ask about and communicate with his family in a better way. And also, as we know, the Quran is only in Arabic, the real Quran. But when it has been translated, it is a translated version, so it's not the original version, right? So to me, that is a goal, to learn and speak and read fluently Arabic in a fluent way so that I can read it in its original language.
It's a great goal. Very interesting to learn language. Yeah, it's very funny, difficult at the start, but when you start to learn it and you know more and more, it became more easy.
Right, that is true.
So that's cool. When you will get us much more out of life, and you hear much more interesting story and like this. So that's cool. So how long time have you learned? Have you just start, or have you done it for a while?
Just started. So we got married in June, and then I started learning a few words like this, and then I learned prayer, so I know all of that. But just some words, and then I'm going to start on a school here in the mosque down in my city now to learn the written letters, and then I'll start taking a course to learn more and more in speaking. So I'm very excited about that.
Okay, now that's a great project.
Thank you.
So how do you feel the communication is between us?
I feel that the communication between us has never been better. We have always been very close as siblings and friends, but of course now we took it up to a new level with being business partners and also, what should I say, like more dependent on each other. We have a plan. This day we have a meeting, this day we record. So we are dependent that the other person is doing your job and I'm doing my job. So this has opened the door to be even closer. I feel like the communication has never been better. And when there has been some challenges, you're very good at being honest. And that's something I've had to learn lately as well. So you tell me, hey, Annika, now this and this, I'm a little bit disappointed by this and this. And then you keep me accountable. And instead of you going around for a long time being irritated and maybe sending those small pointers or telling other people, no, you go straight to the source. You go straight to me and say, okay, this needs to be better. And I say, yes, you are completely right. I didn't even think about it. So when we communicate in this way that we have learned to better throughout the last months, right? Things has never worked better. How do you feel?
Yeah, I feel exactly the same. I think great communication. If it is something, we have great communication, we understand each other like this, and if it is something small, yeah, we just take it up, finish with it, and we go on. So I think it's top, yeah. Couldn't be better.
Definitely. And every relationship is about this. We have a relationship as friends, as siblings, as business partners, and other people have relationships with colleagues, relatives, I don't know, this and this, marriages, a spouse. It is so important to always communicate and to be honest. And what I've learned is that if you go around and have something in your mind that you think about, but you don't communicate it, how is the other person going to know that this is an issue? If you're disappointed with me and I don't know, nothing will get better. Only you will get drained because it's heavy on your shoulders. And I saw this video with Brene Brown. She is such a great woman. I think she's a psychologist or something like that. I've heard a lot from her. And she says that her and her husband, every single day when they come home from work, they tell each other, like, marriage is never 50-50, is what she says. So some days she'll come home from work and be drained, and she's telling him, today I have 20% in like energy level. And he'll be like, okay, thanks you for telling me. I got you. I'll pull 80. Maybe he'll do the cooking or he'll do this and this. And then maybe some days they'll come home and they're both low. Let's say they're 30 and 30. Okay, but then they both have to pull themselves together to be 100 for each other and for the children. And this was a really great way of just communicating and being honest with, okay, what do we have? What do we need to reach our goals, in having this good atmosphere around the dinner table, to follow up our children. I really like this idea, actually.
It was a great one. I never heard this one before, but this one I'm never gonna forget.
It's awesome, right?
Absolutely. So is it something more you have on your heart about communication, Annika?
I always have so much on my heart, but I think these are some good final words to bring into our day. And just a final reminder that communication is key to everything. And you are responsible of being a good listener, a good communicator, and to work on yourself, to be responsible for your own, what should I say, attitude, really, and atmosphere. So everyone should work on themselves to be the best communication partner you can.
This episode was recorded January 30, 2025. If you like this episode, don't forget to share it with a friend or someone you think will like it. If you would like to donate a small amount to this podcast, it had been great. The donation link is the 101percentpodcast.com/donate. We have Apple Pay, Google Pay, PayPal, credit card, you name it. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram on this podcast account, the 101% podcast. If you like this episode, make sure to share this podcast episode with a friend and review the show on Apple Podcast. Thank you to all the audience for listening. We appreciate you all a lot. Hope that you will come back and listen to our next episode. Until next time, take care and give it your best.